Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. Going to be talking about uh, call missions and, more importantly, Archon shards. We've gotten a couple of weekly rotations in, and I think it's fair game to talk about the potential meta that's about to emerge. Because there's an issue with the call missions, and it's the time gating, and there's obviously a big benefit if done correctly using the Archon shards and the Tau forged Archon shards. I'm not going to talk about the percent difference and the RNG on the RNG, but because that topic's been beaten to death already. But more in terms of how, as of right now, there's no catch-up mechanic. I think it's safe to say that eventually there will be a catch-up mechanic instituted into this, but let's just talk more about the actual shards themselves. So the rotation seems to be red, yellow, blue, and it just cycles, right? Um, with red being damage, and we can look at it right here. So it just follows the cycle, and then when it gets to the end, it loops, right? But any sort of meta that's going to emerge is the usefulness of these is pretty clear, and I could see it being pretty obvious that the average frame is going to be running at least 3 red shards, just because of the usefulness of these. Melee crit damage, I'm not going to go into min maxes, but if you're running some sort of frame that can take advantage of an exalted weapon, there is clearly a right answer here. But the fact remains is there's some pretty interesting implications with this. Like, say, Mesa, for example. It would make sense initially to think uh, secondary crit chance, right? Like, obviously, that's fantastic for Mesa. Um, but there's probably a balance somewhere, and I haven't done the math on it, where 4 secondary crit chance and then an ability strength would be better, right? Because the ability strength on Mesa counts as the base damage on the regulators. But for the average frame, that if you're trying to do like a weapon platform, or you're just playing the game casually, I could see a really even split of just doing like primary status chance, ability strength, and duration as like a default go-to comfy build. Because the issue isn't are they useful, it's just as soon as you go over to yellow, the amber shard, these become more niche. So effectiveness of health orbs does not stack with equilibrium. I figured it wouldn't, but I was kind of hoping it would get spaghetti coated into the game. But it wasn't. So if your frame values health orbs, say like a Nidus, you're probably going to be running the energy orb one. Maximum energy filled on spawn, the 30%. I wouldn't dedicate a shard to it. If you really need energy on spawn, let's be honest, you're probably using energy pieces. If it's really, really annoying, I would say tune your build a little bit so you can complete a rotation of whatever you're doing. But most frames that have ridiculous energy requirements at the beginning, you're probably running a very tuned build already. And the frames that benefit heavily from insane power strength and you can dump stat energy on them, say like Baruch, for example, you don't need this. chroma, you don't need this, right? Like, so the frames that really, really, really benefit, and even Wisp, which I'm on now, um, there's an augment if you want to use it, so you can always cast it at the beginning. So the most effective one, honestly, out of these, is probably casting speed or effectiveness of energy orbs. So in terms of a little bit of utility, I could see dropping casting speed, and I probably will on most of my frames, just so I don't have to run natural talent on stuff, and the frames where I don't have room for natural talent, I do get a little bit of a benefit. Because right now the modding setup is you have to use natural talent or the casting speed drift mod, right? And it's not that big of a bonus, but you can also use the focus school for casting speed, but you have to be running that focus school to begin with. So casting speed I see as an overall win, right? The next one is the blue one. It's the defense one. Energy max, I could see being like running 2 energy max Azure shards. I could see being a potential comfy build. And if you don't know what you want for like a min-maxed build, and I would honestly say if you are doing like a min-max disruption build, because to be honest, even with the Zeraman release and the Cascade scaling, I didn't feel like any of these shards would actually help me. And besides, I did the level cap runs on them and the disruption runs without these. So they're not needed. But if you're building a frame and you're new to the game, just build stuff that makes it a little bit more comfortable running your frame. Because the blue and the yellow shards are not going to make you feel more powerful. The energy max one on the blue shard could save you a mod slot though. But health, how many frames benefit from health and armor? Anaros, Nidus, you would stack these and maybe a little bit of casting speed, right? But you wouldn't run like 5 yellow shards. So I could see by the time this gets done, or by the time they institute like the catch-up mechanics to it, you being constantly short on red shards, having a stack of yellow shards, and having blue being your second most used. Because the red ones are going to be the one everybody is going to be fitting on their frame, especially Tau Forged. The only saving grace to this, to be honest, is that the meta level cap weapons, which are the Zeraman weapons, really don't benefit from these in terms of like damage. Like you can't use the secondary crit chance on the Latum. The melee crit damage is phenomenal for the Praetos, right? But you would have to be running a melee setup, which with the current strength of the primaries, you wouldn't really be using. You would use it to trash clear, but if you're doing a min-max setup, you wouldn't use it. So the only one that's really available for the weapons platform bonuses is the primary status chance, which is phenomenal on something like the Fenmore or the Felarks, right? Because you're trying to kill with raw damage, and if you can happen to get a slash proc on there, that's amazing. And there's a lot of level cap weapons that can do level cap that really, really need status chance. So I could just see the meta being right now 3 primary status chance Archon shards at a minimum on most frames. So that being said, The 10 ability strength isn't a big deal. Obviously, if you're running like a Wisp, I'm probably going to end up putting a ton of ability strength on here, and maybe enough ability strength to deal with the negative, so I can get back to 100% strength on the like the survival build that I have, because negative strength hurts you more in terms of amount of time that you have, hurts you more on Wisp modes than having extra, or negative duration hurts you more than having extra duration, right? It's just math, right? Like if you have 100% power strength and say the moat lasts for like 30 seconds, if you go down to 75%, it's obviously a 25% reduction. But in order to gain the same time back, it's a 1/3 increase. So for this, because you're playing with 100%, it's easier to get the 100% back and to just keep it 30 seconds. And 30 seconds isn't too bad. Obviously, you want it longer. But if you're running a power strength Wisp, you're probably starving for a couple of stats, because you really want like some form of range on her. So the recommended general use Peepo Comfy, whatever it is probably going to end up being 3 red shards, a yellow shard, and like an energy blue shard. So the yellow shard would be like casting speed, or effectiveness of energy orbs. Because the fact is it's going to be a long, long, long time before you start seeing YouTube videos that are real common of people even recommending builds with 5 Tau Forged shards. Like maybe somebody is RNG'd 5 Tau Forged already, but for it to be commonplace, it's going to take a long time. So don't worry about like catching up. That was confirmed today when I was talking with some other people. I've only heard from like a couple of people in the clan and alliance that are having issues doing this weekly. Because after doing the math, and it was confirmed today, we were talking about it. If you're a casual player, which most of the people in the clan and the alliance easily qualify as, the Kahl mission requires at a minimum 2 runs. One, you just say screw the time and you run through and collect everything and make sure not to die, right? And then the next mission, you just burn through the mission and just do the objectives. But the first run takes 30 to 40 minutes at a minimum. Obviously, it will get faster since these since these missions are on rotation, and you're doing them twice. So it will get faster as you become more familiar with the locations of especially the gene stamps and knowing where the passwords are, which seems to be a repeat thing. But you're still looking at about an hour if you get pretty efficient at it. But if you're a casual player and you've only got like an hour or two to play, you're basically looking at 20% of your playtime. Because a lot of people in the clan have families, a lot of the people in the clan have jobs. They're mid-30s like I am. So your amount of time playing Warframe, this Kahl mission is essentially 20% of your weekly play. It could get higher if you're only playing Warframe. If you have, if you can only play Warframe and this is your game of choice to relax with, your Kahl mission run through could be 50% of your playtime. If you can only sit down and play a game for like say 2-3 hours a week, this became Warframe for you. And this is what I wanted to talk about. Because after hearing that this is a more common issue, because for a more hardcore or more um, time available person, this isn't that big of an issue. Because we still get to play by percentage the game of Warframe that we want to play. But if you've only got an hour or two each week, this is Warframe for you. Because there is a massive difference between a 5 Tau shard frame, which I don't have yet, but there is going to be. There's a big difference between 5 Tau shards of red shards on a Mesa or a Korra or an Atlas or like a Baruch, where they're heavily reliant on their stat sticks, compared to a frame that doesn't have those. And I just wanted to say, everybody just relax. You can level cap with these frames already, right? Like, people have done level caps with all of these frames. So you're missing an easier time for sure. And the Tau Forged, it does add up. Because for every 2 Tau Forged of, like, say, reds, you basically get a free one. So if you were to have 4 reds, you would either have in your mind 4 reds, or sorry, 6 reds, because it would be 50%. So you would have the 4 reds plus the 50% bonus, and you would end up with a free slot. Or you would end up with 2 free slots, and then you would just not equip the 4th one, right? In terms of, like, allocating power, because all of these bonuses are flat. So if you were to run melee crit damage, it could free up a slot on a very dense melee build. Ooh, pardon. You run 3 of them, and you don't have to, and you could free up a slot of Organ Shatter, right? You run 3 Tau Forged melee crit damage, and you don't need Organ Shatter at all. And it could massively free up a min-maxed melee if you are doing that. And it's especially helpful if you're running like a self-priming melee. It would give you access to a faction mod that much easier, and probably allow you to run double attack speed. Because the melee builds are incredibly mod competitive, right? Like, that's why Rivens are so expensive on melees, is because there's so much you have to fit on them. It's just, it is what it is. So just, I would say for now, just run comfy builds until you've got a stack of the shards, and only really worry about min-maxing per task, right? Like, you don't worry about min-maxing each build individually, because the fact is in order to take out the Archon shards, it takes bile, and it's not exactly an easy farm getting bile. Let's see, what do we got? Feed. Yeah, none of this stuff is actually super easy. Void Gel is pretty easy. Thermal Sludge is pretty easy. The rest of this is stuff you really wouldn't want to farm for. The Aniserum Injector Fragment is pretty easy to farm. It's infested salvage. It's just, you're really only going to that node to farm Nidus, right? And once you're done, you don't want to go back. Nav coordinates are pretty good. But the rest of this is the one that's filled with the most amount of stuff that you don't want to get rid of. Like, you're never going to use diluted thermia for bile. Javlot capacitors, you're going to use them until they're gone. It requires 7, by the way. Cryotic is 3,000 a pop. If you're not running boosters, that's 30 excavators, by the way. So So you're not going to use that. Morphix is the rare drop. You're not going to use that. ISOs aren't super rare. You just don't farm them a lot at once. And ciphers, you're not going to use these either. I mean, technically you could, but you're going to use them until they're gone. Like, I have 2 left. But you're not going to go run derelict vaults to farm these up, right? And Omega Isotopes, you could, but you need those, especially if you're a newer Warframe player. You need these for when the event happens with the I forget the name of it, the Super Jackal or whatever it is. Was it? It's the Rumble something Armada. Razorback Armada. Yeah, there we go. Tip of the tongue. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to yell. For the Razorback Armada. So you're not going to be using these either. Somatic Fibers. Probably not going to be using these either. But these are somewhat easy to farm if you do Apollo Disruptions. But you need these also. Especially if you're a newer player. So if you're newer and you're getting through the system and you really don't have a ton of resources available, Void Gel is going to be the easiest one to get because it's current content. Thermal Sludge is also pretty easy to get. Nav Coordinates is pretty easy to get. And probably Orokin Ciphers you might have a small bit of. But your main 3 are going to be Nav Coordinates, Thermal Sludge, and Void Gel for the farm. Just so you know. But yeah, going back to the shards. Honestly, I can't recommend min-maxing these yet until you have a stack of Tau forged. And if you have a stack of Tau forged and you're running Exalted, your 3 Tau forged reds are going to be relevant to whatever your Exalted weapon is. Mesa Regulators, secondary crit chance, she's gonna love it. If you're running like Fenmore builds for disruption, primary status chance. Wukong, melee crit damage, because these apply to Exalted. If you're running like a support build and you tend to run like Strength Wisp a lot as your go-to, fix the duration if you're running negative right now, and then put the rest into ability strength. I'm already starting to see Wisp builds that are giving 12 to 1300 health, because it's pretty easily doable now to get a frame into 600 power strength because of all the buffs. So the power creep is happening. Okay, the power creep is happening. But don't feel like you're behind. Everybody, including me right now, is just passively farming this. But here's the main thing that I wanted to say. If you are one of the casual players in the clan, there's nothing wrong with that. If you got time and it's only like an hour or 2 a week, run this mission once a month and only do it on the shard that you give a shit about. Okay? Just do the Archon hunts. You'll get the shards that way. And just skip Kahl. I know it's kind of mean to Kahl. Just do Kahl like once a month. And maybe do it twice a month every now and then. Because even if you were to do Kahl, because it's each mission, you need, in order to get styanax and the Archon shard, you have to be level 5 with Kahl's Garrison. And if you had done Kahl's Garrison, the Kahl mission, every other week, you would be at like rank 4 right now. Right? And you would have only missed like 2 Archon shards. 1. You would have missed 1 Archon shard. You would have gotten the second one this week, and it's about to roll over into the next week. But the most advantageous time, because he resets on Sunday, is to play Warframe, is literally just time when you play Warframe. And if this is possible for you, obviously if you have a family, you get time when you get time, right? You're probably the husband listening to this. If you got a wife, you got 2 kids, you're going to have 30 minutes to play Warframe when it happens, right? Just do the Kahl mission when you can. Don't let it interrupt your Warframe gaming experience. This mission right now, this time gating for nothing, for power, for giving us more power, it's not required power. Don't feel like you're not going to be able to access something. There's no way this system at any point in time is going to be required to do content. This system is not going to be required to play the game. It's going to make playing the game easier, for sure, but it is never going to be something that is required to play Warframe. And there's enough power creep in the game already that you're not going to be missing out on anything. Like, for example, I haven't done any level caps, like max level content, since this system came out. So every single disruption run, every single cascade run, every single survival, every single interception that I've done that went to max level has not included this system. So you can still do the content. None of it required God roll ribbons, though certainly some of them helped. So you're not missing anything. Okay. So it is what it is. Just take it easy. There's no catch-up mechanic for this yet, though I'm sure there's going to be one coming. Like, even if it's they make all 3 Archon shards cheaper, I could see them making that the catch-up mechanic, like the first catch-up mechanic. It's the easiest to do. It requires the least amount of effort. Is from this guy. I need to get my one for this week. Is right now the Archon shard from Clipper takes 90 stock, which basically means 1 a week, right? I could see them cutting this down to 30 and doing 1 of each, just to get the drop rate up as a catch-up mechanic. It'd be the easiest thing for them to do. So you're missing out a little bit, but it's only on stuff that you really don't need. So let's talk about time gating in and of itself, because there are very few things. Oh, I actually have a sweeper out here. Ruma's doing a good job with all the grass. And this is going to be more wax rhapsodic. The fact is personally, I am not a fan of time gating. And the biggest example, the most clear-cut example, was when MapleStory 2 came out. When MapleStory 2 came out, they wouldn't allow you to progress to the next tier, the next expansion, until you achieved a power level. That's not an issue. But the mission, or the dungeon that you had to go through, in order to drop the equipment that you needed to get to the next power level, you could only run the mission so many times in a month. Literally made me stop playing the game. Because after 2 months of not being able to get through, I eventually had to go to the market, and thank goodness in MapleStory 2 at the time. The market was with free currency. You could spend real money on it, but you could also buy it with in-game items, like in-game currency. But eventually I had to market out of it. Now, that is not the situation, but in terms of like time gating, I'm always super suspect of any sort of time gating. And I think the issue with this comes down to the fact that it's a week. Because Warframe is filled with several different types, several different categories of players. Okay, hold on. Where's MS Paint? We're going big, right? So you have several categories. So you have hardcore players. I would be in this category, right? And this is a problem for DE. You have casual players. Oh, let me get a different color. Undo. Red. You have casual players. You have players who have been playing for a long time, were hardcore players, but are now casual players. So this would be me, right? I would be right here, where I'm almost a hardcore player in like the truest sense. I don't do speed running. I don't do level caps that often. I don't do tons of eidolons, but I used to. So I moved out of this into the casual and veteran, where I still have access to the level cap content because I used to be hardcore, but I'm being carried more by my veteran status and my time in game. Like, as little as it matters, my Steam hours, I'm almost at 7,500. My in-game hours, I think I'm at like in mission, I think I'm at like 2,800. I say that. Oh, I'm at 20. Hold on. 2,700? Oh, 2,900. Oh, okay, whatever. 2,900. So I count as a veteran only because what counts as a casual is so low. But if you were to say compare to like League of Legends, I would be like a journeyman rank because people play League volume-wise so much more, and there's no separate category for Steam time and game time, right? So it would just be 7,000, and I wouldn't count as a veteran anymore. Warframe isn't really trying to focus on one group. They are trying to rapidly turn casuals into veterans, but the problem is there's not much for veterans to do. So all of the content is geared for this transition. Oh man, where's text? So all of the content... Okay, I'll remember that next time. All of the content is geared for this transition to turn a new player, a casual player, into a veteran player. Hardcore used to be what the game was about. Right? That's what the game used to be. Is that you had this tower key system. If you could do level cap, it quantifiably benefited you more. Because you could do survivals longer, you could get more prime parts. Time gating destroys this. Hold on. Pink, because it's embarrassing. Oh, what's my size? Time gating kills hardcore players. Because if I can put 20 hours a day into a game, I will get the same benefit as a casual player. But the issue is that with this form of time gating, because of how long it takes to complete, it's not like a 20-minute run. If you've got, like, if you're starting to think of a list, right? If you have, like, a mental list of, like, 6, 7 things, so you need to do relics, right? Leveling for MR. Farming. And building dojo, which should be your go-to. Building dojo weapons. Let's just say VPs. And now you have the Kahl mission. Most people, when they get into the game, and especially in my clan, they think rushing MR, and I say this a lot, if you want to rush to an MR, rush to MR 16, and then chill on it. Because a lot of this stuff takes time. Now, building dojo BPs only exists because of farming. Leveling equipment takes time. Now, it is quick, but if you have an hour a day to play, leveling MR can take 50% of your time, and more importantly, it feels like you're making progress in the game, right? So, like, once a month, you'll do, like, a round of farming for, like, a bunch of stuff, and you'll spend most of the time farming if you're grinding MR. And then you'll spend the next couple of days building these. Is sort of the workflow, the efficiency. Like an efficient way of playing. But the problem is if you only have a couple hours a month, this is now 50% of your playtime. At most, if you have like 1 to 2 hours. And if you only have like an hour a day, it's 20%. Hold on, this feels clickbait. Let me... Okay. So if you only have like 2-3 hours a week, the Kahl mission could be 50% of your playtime. And if you play like an hour a day, 5 times a week, the Kahl mission is 20% of your playtime. And it's not contributing to anything else. It's contributing to a later game system that's not even required. And then you need to get the Archon mods, then you need to get the weapon BPs, then you need to build styanax, and then you need to build styanax again. So if you skip the Archon shards and build the BPs and the Archon mods, you haven't even gotten a shard from the shop yet. Right? Or maybe you just got your first one. So, the mission design in terms of time commitment kind of falters a little bit. So, the solution to this is to just ignore it. Use the Archon stuff, the Archon weekly mission, and focus on the blueprints, focus on the mods when you get the chance. Figure out what mod you need, buy that one Archon mod, and don't get the Archon shard at all, is the fastest way to progress. Because you can skip the Aphentus. It's a unique design, but it is not useful at higher level content. They put out a weapon that provides a team buff, and it requires everybody on the team to know to go stand in the orb. Right? It has sort of the similar to look to like a frost globe, right? Um, but your team has to know what it looks like. If you run the wrong color on the weapon, I'm gonna think there's a frost on the team, right? Like it kind of similar, especially with all the other effects going on. You might not even notice it, especially because it's only down there for a couple seconds. So skip that. The Slatra's pretty good though, and for the boys that run heavy attack slash on Ash with expedited suffering, check that meme build out. By the way, you know the build, but the 12 seconds applies to expedited suffering. Ash boosts it, plus the slash damage. It ends up being pretty nasty. So check it out. That's actually pretty cool for like a different build, right? But the only solution is to just nix this entire thing. Is just ignore it. And just slowly do it. So that's the solution that I'm presenting. You're not really missing much. You'll still get half the amount of Archon shards, but don't double up on the Archon shards by running the Kahl mission and putting yourself behind. Because styanax is a good frame. It's a shame that it's now meta to Helminth off his 4. Because it was like his unique ability. Because they nerfed it so much. Get the Slatra first, then styanax. Pick up whatever Archon mod you feel comfortable using. I would honestly recommend if you use a frame that uses electricity in any way, shape, or form, to pick up the range one. It's going to cost you a forma, but the range one is the easiest one to proc. Followed by that, the easiest one to just sort of upgrade and drop into your build would be the continuity one. Because the range one and the intensify, the Archon stretch, Archon intensify, are going to cost you a forma, most likely. It's going to cost you a forma with the reach, the Archon reach. But if you're running like a really busy frame mod setup, you probably have intensify not even on your frame. Is probably transient fortitude or blind rage. So you already have a V polarity on it. So it's up to you if you want the additional hassle of triggering. But this is the only solution I could come up with, is to literally just let it be background noise, because this doesn't allow you access to something, so you're not gated out of it. But the system can only help, and moreover, you never get a Tau forged from Clipper. You're never going to get a Tau forged from Clipper unless they change it. So keep playing your game. Don't worry about catching up. I know in Warframe, as soon as something new comes out, everybody wants to min-max it. Everybody wants to... that becomes the new gold standard. And this will easily become it. We're already starting to see it. So just chill on it. We're a casual clan. We're a casual alliance. This isn't preventing you from accessing anything, which would be a significantly bigger deal if this was literally preventing you from getting somewhere, which it's not. So that's not the case. But anyway, I'm gonna end this video now, because frankly, it's at least they time gated something that's a bonus and not something that's required. If they time gated this and it was a required thing, I'd be pissed. It kind of sucks that they made styanax only through Clipper. But if you look at it, it's what? 60, 120, 210, 270, and you get 100. So it's going to take 2 weeks and change, 3 weeks to farm up styanax in order to get your helminth. It's going to take... Jesus, what's that actual time? Hold on. Calculator. Is that right? 90 plus 60 plus 60 plus 60 is 270. You need two of them. So 540. Okay, hold on. How long does it take to farm styanax? Okay, so 540 was the saved. Okay, so 30 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15. So it's 105. So it takes a month to farm styanax and the helminth. A month and a week. Doesn't that by default make him the longest frame to farm? Because Equinox was the pain in the ass, right? But you could power farm that and knock it out in an afternoon if you killed Tile Rigor. But the only thing holding you back is RNG, right? This is actually a time gate. Let me make sure I did that right. That seems obscene. Hold on, old man moment. I'm getting him. And you get 105 per week. Oh, yes. So for styanax and his helminth, it takes a month and a week. Okay, hold on. 540 plus 30 plus 60 plus 30 divided by 105. It takes a month and 3 weeks to get all the MR and the helminth, and you haven't even started the Archon shards. Or the Archon continuity. Yeah, screw the Archon shards on this. Well, geez, now I gotta know. How long does this actually take? What the hell? I should know this. I'm sorry, hold on. Okay, so 30 plus 60 plus... Okay, so hold on. We have styanax. Styanax is 540, right? Plus 30 plus 60 plus 30 plus 45. And we have, and each of the Archon mods is 40. And we have 5 of those. So plus 200. And we got the Fog of War. So if you were to farm everything up and not get an Archon shard ever, it would take you 2 months and 3 weeks. Yeah, it would take you 2 months and 3 weeks. at 105 stock per run. Jesus. And you wouldn't have even gotten your first Archon shard. And to be honest, okay, so let's talk about shortening this crap up. Um, the Egret, listen, I know it's a meme build. I know it's and it takes Argon crystals, Cryotic, and Kuva. Tellurium, Kuva for the other weapon. God, I'm glad I bought that pack. Jesus. So obviously you're gonna farm up styanax first. By the time you get to level 5, because I know it's how I did it, you're gonna have 525, and you're just not gonna buy anything. Right? 105 a week, 5 weeks. Or what would it be? It would be 4. It would be 4. 105 times 4. So you're going to have 420 dank. So your first thought should be skipping the Agrit and Aphentus, the Archon mods, and just buying out styanax and the Slaytra, because the Slaytra's worth it. And then as soon as styanax is done, you just buy him again. Because that's going to take you so much time. You'll be on the next week. Because none of these... The most useful out of all of these, the easiest one to proc is Stretch. Don't get me wrong, it's the easiest one to proc. But the most useful one, for those that don't have these yet, is if you are running a heat frame, Archon Vitality is so strong, it is actually worth reducing your strength on your frame a little bit, like specifically Ember, to be able to slot this. Like if you're running like Intensify, Transient Fortitude, Blind Rage on like an Exothermic 4 build on Ember, it is actually worth getting rid of Blind Rage to put Archon Vitality on her instead, which should help you out a ton. But most of these are so niche, like you could almost skip Archon Flow. Archon Continuity has some niche uses. Like it's really, really, really absurdly strong against the Corpus for frames that can use this, because it allows you to mod for Toxin Radiation or Toxin Magnetic and get free corrosive stacks for the occasional Corpus unit that has armor. So this is incredibly strong. And Archon Intensify, if you do run one of the frames that can easily proc this, maybe this could be your first pick. But each of these are so niche, I would say you just skip all of it. Just styanax, the Slaytra, and then styanax again, and then come back for the weapons and get your MR. I had no idea it took that many months to get everything. That's wild. Well, okay, that leads to another question. Hold on. I know I'm thinking aloud here, and I know you're all just listening. Hold on, I didn't want that. That's cash. Styanax. The Styanax come with a bundle. Well, okay, how much is Styanax on his own? And the Aphentis is 240. Well, that's easy then. Screw farming for him. Okay, I take it back. Screw Chipper. The Aphentis is the best bang for the buck, right? Just farm the weapons, get the mods, the ephemera if you care, and just sell stuff for plat to get styanax. Because it's going to take you weeks to get them. You can farm for them in a day. You could... That's insane. You could sell augment mods from the syndicates fast enough that it, even for a casual player, it would beat farming for styanax. Because it's going to take 2 weeks and change to get them, right? You could easily, even for a casual player, just farm up the plat. Yeah, screw farming for him. Don't do that. So you would just get the weapons. Let's see, Kuva... 8 Tellurium, that's nothing. Kuva, Morphix, 2 Morphix, that's nothing. 2200 Kuva. You probably have that. Cryotic might be the most time-intensive thing here, 1200. But you find a Excavation Fisher. And 2 Argon Crystals, that's nothing. If you don't know how to farm Argon Crystals, you just take a frame through a Void mission. Like anything on the corrupted tile set, and just take like an AoE weapon and just go blow shit up. And you'll have to, and if you have a Smita, just sort of hang out in the mission until the rare Smita buff procs, right? You just run like 4 or 5 and you'll have Argon Crystals. Yeah, so screw farming for him. Yeah, you don't want to do this. Let's see what his resources are. Void Plume Quill, Thraxplasm, Radiant Centurium. Oh man, I didn't even look at these. I just built them. Star Crimson and 1200 Oxium. That's not a small amount. Hespasm Alloy. If you don't know where that is, there's an easily Googleable map. You know where the long north spawn of Profit Taker is, in the top left of the map? There's a bunch of it spawns higher up there when you do mining in Orvelis. Purged Draconic Norgbrain. Yeah, just use the pillars in Deimos for those. Radiance and Serum. Oh geez, some of this stuff is actually Star Crimson. Ooh, okay, so wait, how long would it actually... Because these are all standings blueprints. Oh man, I don't want to actually think about how long that would take. Hold on. Okay, we're doing math now. Okay, Purge Draconic. How bad is the styanax farm for a new player? This is actually super important. Hold on. Because these are all standings blueprints. Okay, Thraxplasm, Void Plume Quill. Quills aren't as popular as they used to be. I was an idiot, and I turned all of mine in. I didn't think they would nerf the spawn of the quills. But either way, Void Plume Quill, that's just a couple of missions. Um, it's the reward for completing the bounties on the Zeraman, so it's just number of times. You just wait until a mission that you like pops up. Like say like a tier 5 exterminate, and you just go through and do it. Or if it's like a tier 4, you do it then also, right? Okay, hold on. How navigation. Okay, Purge Draconic, Star Crimson, Hespasm. Okay, so Deimos bounties. Jeez, what tier are these? I could probably just Google it. Okay. Um, rank 2 and cost 4,000 standing. Sacrifice. Okay, so you can do it in 1 day. And you need the bonds. So standing wise, you can oh 2 3 was that 27? At unranked, you're at like 15,000. So 2 days. Yeah, 2 days. So it'd be 5. Then you lose it. Then you get 10. So that's 1 day. 10 to 25 is the second day, provided you have all the debt bonds. And that would get you there. Then you would have to buy the bond, or buy the rank 2. But you wouldn't have enough, because you'd be at 25, and this costs 4, so it'd be 3 days worth of standing. Okay, so 3 days to get that. Okay, rank 0 for 1k standing. Okay, acquisition. Okay, that's whatever. It's 1k standing. Um, 10k. Oh, geez. Okay. So that's 5, 27. And you have to be rank 4. Jeez. Okay, so 5 plus 22 plus 44 plus 70. So it'd be 9 days to get that blueprint. Well, 10. It'd take 10 days to get that blueprint. So if you rush to the end of the game, and then tried to build styanax, it would take an additional. You could do the standings both at the same time. But it would take you an additional 11 days to build him if you didn't have any standings with those. Anyway, there you go. Jesus. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to help the new bros out with that. Maybe some of that stuff is tradable. Or they can... I think some of those are purchasable, though. Like, I know Otak sells some stuff. So maybe there's like a platform that we can institute on that. But that's kind of insane. So if somebody rushes to the Zeraman, does all of the quests, gets the Kahl, but they haven't done their standings, they would then be locked out of Kahl, or locked out of styanax for an additional 10 days, 11 days. But obviously you're supposed to have done those, but people are rushing to the end. Either way, enough complaining. Enough complaining. I've gone on far too long. That is a lot of standings grind hidden behind that frame. But anyway, that's my recommendation. Farm the plat, skip the standing grind. Farm the plat, double plat, purchase styanax to skip the standing grind. And then farm the weapons because they don't require any standings. They don't require any standings weapons. Yeah, no rare resources. I mean, obviously Tellurium is going to take a bit, but that's some Railjack farm now, right? Just double plat purchase styanax and skip all of this random crap. Farm up the weapons and the Archon mods. And that's my recommendation. That is insane that it takes you that long to farm them. I mean, obviously you're supposed to have that stuff, but if a new player rushed to the end, they're not going to have any of this crap. Especially... Jeez. Yeah. Especially the Radiant Centurium. That takes almost the entire time. Because you need to get rank 4. But anyway, thank you all for hanging out. I know it's been a little bit long and a bit more complaining, but there's your math. For any clan leaders and alliance leaders that watch me, tell your people to do not, unless they have their standings, do not farm styanax. Get the plat together and buy them twice. Unless they've already been around the block a bit and they have those standings done. You're talking weeks to get that frame. Just get him a platform, let him make money that way, and just casually afford styanax, because he's not that expensive. So, like, what is it? It was 190, right? For styanax? When the Aphentus costs more than styanax. Yeah, it's 175 plat to buy. The weapon costs more than him. What a time to be alive. Yeah, just double plat this. Tell them to do that, even for the Helminth, unless they have the standings done. That's a bit insane. That is a bit much. I can't believe the weapon costs more than styanax. What the hell? It's not even that good. Anyway. Y'all take it easy. Have a blessed day.